Here it is. Thank you very much for joining today's GoDaddy Pro meetup. Today we have two hosts and a bunch of great guests. So first of all, I would like to introduce Ronald Giselle, who is our co-host today, and also a community friend who will help us talk about Woo. So Ronald, thank you very much for joining us. How are you today?
Okay. I'm very good, thank you. Yes.
Great. We also have Leah Oriol. How are you, Leah, today? You're also one of our panelists talking on what to do if you want to woo, how and what to do. So how are you feeling, please?
Really good, really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's an afternoon in Europe, and just after that we jump to America, actually to the morning, early morning for Sam Greenspan. Sam, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, it's just 10 a.m. here in lovely Los Angeles, and very happy to be here, part of this.
Did you already have your second kick of coffee?
I did. You know, I wanted to make sure. I don't know if you all have like the like morning TV shows where the hosts are super peppy at like 4 a.m, but I wanted to make sure that I could bring at least that level of energy to this. So yes, I took all steps necessary.
I think that's very American, though, isn't it? They're very peppy. The way you described it.
Beyond peppy. It's very American. Yeah. Like, good morning, Phoenix. Yeah. It's very...
So lots of positive energy from from the mornings to Vito. Vito, how are you today?
I'm good. It's good to be here. It's already been an interesting morning today. Yeah. Have a great week to everyone, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. So, so before actually, maybe Ronald, maybe you would like to actually say something before we start with the official part. First of all, thanks everyone for joining us today. I mean, if you had the time to visit VCU, if you didn't have actually time to visit VCU today, maybe it's a good chance to visit it tomorrow and the day after, and perhaps contribute to WordPress a little bit. But so let's move to the topic. So today we talk about what to do if you want to woo. Ronald, I think you're my first, actually the first person that I met from the Woo community. Actually, one of the first people from the Woo community. So, and I attended a number of meetups that you actually hold, London Woo meetups, and met there's so many great people as well. And we even developed now this type of serial where we want to show people how they can actually improve their business. So, how do you see actually this Woo summer this year? And we start today with the panel. And how do we start today?
Yeah, so WooCommerce is a constantly evolving subject, isn't it? It's always moving. Whether it's your own project and you start with just installing WooCommerce and then add functionality, or just as a as a platform within WordPress. So it's very exciting, and there are so many things that plug into it. There are so many apps, plugins, but also SaaS companies that use WooCommerce to extend their customer base, or the WooCommerce customers to bring them over to their platform. So you can never learn fast enough to help you navigate this really difficult ecosystem and landscape of WooCommerce. So today it's the start, and we're going to go through 16 points. So 16, I call it statements that I've sort of observed over the last year of hosting the weekly WooCommerce London meetup. And I think these are really key questions that if you are starting with WooCommerce as a freelancer or as a customer, or you want to build up something yourself, these are things that you've wondered about, you've questioned, or or you'll face very soon. And hopefully also towards the end of this hour, there are a couple of things that might be really useful, that if you are a freelancer working with WooCommerce, how can you engage with your customers and create more business with them? So you look for opportunities and see how you can tap into that and have this conversation with them. So if I may ask the first, or come up with the first statement, and this one I think is one for Leah, because it's I know we've had a bit of a conversation before this, of last week or week before, and this is one of the first ones that I'm being asked in the meetup, which is, what's the difference between Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, and using WooCommerce, and what are the advantages, and so Leah, what's the quick and easy answer, and what maybe in a nutshell are the pros and cons between them?
That's a good question. I think there are quite a few differences. The first is just to understand that WooCommerce is a plugin and it extends WordPress. And that really actually is the nutshell, right? It actually sits on top of already an existing ecosystem that allows you to access things like blogs and things like that, right? So the three key differences that I see is the first is flexibility. The second one is hosting, and then the third one is ease of use. So flexibility, by that I mean WooCommerce being a plugin, it can also live in the world of WordPress plugins. That means you can do nearly anything you want. There's very few use cases you can't do with WooCommerce. If you want to do subscriptions, memberships, all of that is super easy. Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, they're more built for like a vanilla version of e-commerce where it's sort of more suited for a single common use case of just selling physical products online. By hosting, what I mean is WooCommerce is a plugin on top of WordPress, right? So you typically have to find your own hosting. Shopify and Squarespace are hosted apps, so you don't actually have to find hosting; it's already done for you. That's a big difference. And then the last one is, I would say, ease of use, where Shopify and Squarespace, again, because they are less flexible, they tend to be a little bit easier for novices to get started, but that comes with a lack of flexibility. You don't have access to your database, or you don't own your data and things like that. That can be a problem down the line, especially as you scale and as you want to add more cool things for your customers. So Woo really is, I think, for people that want to scale, that want to add cool things about their e-commerce websites. And I would highly recommend trying it out.
Yeah, great. I love the summary as well. Sam, so Leah talked a little bit about scaling, and one of the things that I asked a lot is, WordPress, it's a blogging platform, and when you add WooCommerce to it, there are limitations. Is that true? What's your take on that?
I mean, not really. No, I don't think there are really limitations on it. I think that, we know WordPress as a blogging platform, but not just a blogging platform. I mean, WordPress at this point is powering something like a third of the entire internet. So clearly people have found use cases for it beyond just, putting up blogs, especially, now with all the e-commerce functions around WooCommerce. So I would say that, if anything, the fact that WordPress originated as this blogging platform makes WooCommerce a more palatable option and an easier option to get into, because it's this very familiar, very lived-in interface that we all know. And if you're starting an e-commerce store, I mean, there's a decent chance at this point you've encountered a WordPress site at some point beforehand. So WooCommerce lives very comfortably and marries very well into there. The e-commerce functions are still very clear and kept very separate, but you can also see how you can integrate the blog functions across with it. I really like that aspect of it, frankly. I think that, I've started I know this may be blasphemous to say, but once upon a time I did start a Shopify store, long before I got into the WooCommerce community. And it has the blogging functionality, but it's not as robust, and it feels like of this sort of like a vestigial part of it, as opposed to something so baked into it. And as a content person, I believe so highly in the value of putting good content on your e-commerce site. It's nice to have both of them there, and I think the platform is really good for that. And I think that the fact that it is on WordPress just makes it better, and makes it a better platform as a choice. Yeah.
Right, I'm totally sold. WooCommerce, WordPress, scale, great. Now, if I'm a shop owner and I start to think, all right, I've got all these plugins and this user, and I need to start building, and this becomes now really a complex setup, because you have to decide on hosting, you have to decide on the tools. Okay, we know now WordPress and WooCommerce, but how to build up this platform, this e-commerce store as a user. So one of the things I always recommend is to use sort of similar companies or e-commerce sites that you want to use, and pick really good things. But key for me is always to put yourself in the shoe of the customer. So, you know, if you're an Amazon customer, what are the really easy things that you would expect? Or if you are an Airbnb user, you know, what are the key things, or maybe the missing parts, and sort of learn from that and take note of that very early on from, you know, as you build up, because it's a user journey. You are the user. What do you want to see? Because it is so easy to work from a developer's point of view, or maybe from a designer point of view, and forget very quickly the usability things. Vito, I know you're absolutely top when it comes to working with clients. It's probably your specialism there. So I'm let's say I'm the client. You know, I start to pick up all these different ideas of, oh, I want this, I want that. Can you make this happen? How do you limit me or the customer so I don't go totally out of scope, and, you know, a week project suddenly turn into a 5-month project but never end in sight?
Right. So first of all, it's good if a project starts small and then expands, because people get inspired by the possibilities. And as Leah was saying, when you're working with WooCommerce, you actually have the power to do that. You can start with a 3 weeks project and make it like a few years project over time, extending to additional functionalities. The trick is to not allow it to continue for the initial project. So what I would suggest is, if the client is inspired and comes up with more ideas, awesome, we can do everything, just not now, because we agreed on the base of it. Let's get this out to the market, and let's keep all of those amazing ideas as a backlog for stage 2, stage 3, stage 15 of the project after the initial launch. This allows you to keep engaging with the client, allows you to keep expanding the platform, and also keeps the client in check when it comes to the initial scope of what you agreed on. So don't stop them. Like, you know, I know we're all very scared of scope creep. Scope creep is the mechanism of clients asking more than they agreed to, or they initially asked for. Of course, you need to be aware of it from the project budget point of view and the timeline point of view. But you don't want to limit people's inspiration, especially when it's their own business. You know, if they want to build like a super elaborate filter system or product discovery system that will allow people to find the right product out of a few thousands or a few hundreds or even a few dozens, then that's a great idea, only not now. So that's what I would say.
Nice. So there are lots of different themes on the market, you know, lots of themes that are WooCommerce ready, enabled, etc. Leah, what do you need to look for in a WooCommerce design, and at what point do you need to get a designer involved? Maybe you could sort of talk a little bit more about the design of an actual shop, the layout, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you said, there are a lot of designs already available. There are the WooCommerce templates and themes. So the first thing we want to look for is that the theme that you're picking is WooCommerce compatible, right? So there are a lot of WordPress themes that are great for blogs and great for general websites, but that might not be WooCommerce specific. And the reason I say that is because things like, you know, the checkout process or even the product listing might not be built in. So the first step is to check a WooCommerce one. Then you want to browse and get a sense for maybe the branding, and as you talked about, the user experience. And so a lot of themes let you preview things, right? Like there you play around. So get a sense of, you know, can you view products well, and is the checkout process smooth and intuitive and things like that. And then the good things about WooCommerce is that you can customize things on your own. So if you have a little bit of HTML and CSS knowledge, you can play around. I think that you would need a designer only if you want to really change the theme fundamentally. A lot of custom things like maybe colors and stuff like that are pretty easy for you to do. If you want to really change the functionality of the way the site is organized and things like that, there are some plugins that can help you get there, but then if you want something custom, then it might be time to get a designer involved. So the majority of things are good to go from the get-go.
Yeah. Just a quick question to everybody, whether if you have to build your own next store, would you use a page builder, Gutenberg, or hard code the HTML way? Maya, I'm going to start with you, because I know you've got some work experience here. So what would you do with your next project?
Well, I would make sure that it does somebody who's qualified, because otherwise you lose a lot of time and you create so much mess. And so, I mean, if it's the store, I would really love to try Gutenberg. I mean, if I'm supposed to enter the future, okay, then I have to enter it now. Better now than later.
Yeah. Yeah. Sam,
Yeah.
Say, I think that page builders have their value, but I like them for add-ons and things like that. I don't think that I would want to build my entire store from the ground up in a page builder. I think they're very valuable, but I just think for that, I would want to go with a good theme and then, and use what's built in. I have a lot of control issues when it comes to websites, so I might start trying to get into the code and blow things up. But I think those would be my primary approaches if I were starting, or let's be honest, when I start whatever the next thing I start is on this, that's going to probably be the approach.
Yeah, obviously you're going to be greatly inspired after today. So
yeah.
Vito, same question to you, and then Leah.
I would go with a different approach than what was said here. So I would go with a page builder and not Gutenberg, really. The reason for that is I just feel that Gutenberg is not there yet. It might be there in a couple of, or even in a year or maybe 2 years from now. Then it will be able to compete with some of those other stuff. But in the meantime, the other page builders that are out there, whether it's Elementor, Beaver Builder, and even Oxygen, that is now picking up a lot of traction, are giving you the ability to customize every single aspect of your shop. And what I found over years of working with clients that you build WooCommerce shops for, the pages evolve constantly. At least with active shops, of course you have those clients that they splash on a theme and then they forget about the website ever existing, and so the theme is enough for that aspect. But if you're actually working with a marketing platform, you would want to optimize it. You want to test different things. You want to be able to quickly and in a very agile way move from one idea to the next. So I feel that a page, in my opinion, Elementor would be the approach for doing those different things, because you can drag and drop, you can come up with ideas, you can use an additional A/B testing tool to test an idea within a day instead of custom coding additional template pages into an existing theme, or building it from scratch, or adding add-ons over add-ons over add-ons to get Gutenberg to do what other page builders are doing out of the box.
Great answer. Thanks. Leah?
Well, I was going to go with Gutenberg, but I think Vito may have convinced me here.
Yeah.
No, I think Gutenberg has really a lot of potential. So I think that I would probably lean towards that. We're working on it, on adding some compatibility from our plugin suite with Gutenberg. And I think, as you said, Vito, maybe in the next year or so, if I start a project, then I would lean towards that.
Yeah, I suppose the full site editing is maybe a key point, and then to see what's going to happen. So, and then for that to mature, so maybe another year or so, year and a half before, seems a sensible way. But Elementor, I love the A and B testing. Quick rollout. You've got an idea, and I know, Vito, I know you quite well. So I know how you work. You've got an idea, and it needs to be there yesterday. It's so I can just see it fits you right there. Right. So
fast, that's I think one of the advances or the advantages of WordPress as a whole, that you don't need to wait for the developer or for this thing. You have an idea, boom, it's done, and you can make sure that it works. If you need to elaborate it, or even What we've done a lot of times is that we tested an idea, we saw that it works, and then we invested the time of a developer to even rebuild it from scratch so that you have a minified code, you have an optimized experience, you have all of those kind of additional stuff that you can do. But there is no point testing, creating experiments without having the confidence that they might work or not.
Yeah, great. So let's assume then I've got my site built, maybe Gutenberg, maybe Elementor. You know, it looks beautiful. It's a great site. So week one of launching my site, I give my web developer Sam a call and say, I don't get any customers. How do I get customers to my site? Because just launching it obviously doesn't automatically attract customers. How would you deal with that, Sam?
Well, that is, I mean, that's the number one question people have. Unfortunately, we have moved into an era where it is no longer just putting up a website on the internet and expecting traffic to flow into it. We are long past that point. So in terms of initial customers, if your site is, as you say, like as really locked down, so you've got a really nice looking site, great products, your checkout flow works, all of that. I mean, marketing is a process. You can start to drive some initial purchases. Obviously, a lot of people will go toward advertising. That also, though, is a process of testing. If you've never delved into the world of Facebook advertising, it is a lot of trial and error, and it is also not guaranteed results. So it's, again, it's a lot of work. Here's what I would say. One of the stats that I love is that only approximately 2% of people who go to an e-commerce site wind up converting. So that means even if you're doing everything perfect, 49 out of 50 people who come to your site are not going to convert there, right? So that's low. You need to figure out how you're going to nurture those customers. We always recommend putting good content up, starting to collect emails, starting to build an email list to nurture those customers, especially if you have people coming from advertising. You want to add the touches to bring them back so they can continue to see your site. Work on getting reviews from your customers who drive them. Having reviews on your site is so very important. And people don't want to buy from a site that has no reviews. Make sure your site is very trustworthy. Reviews add a lot to that, but also having, your social media going, seeing if maybe there's user-generated content you can integrate, things like that. And then, of course, like the various trust icons you can put on there, making sure sort of the table stakes stuff, having a secure site, making sure that little lock is in the corner. Even that alone, not everyone's doing that. And so but above all this, knowing that it is a process and it is going to take some time, and eventually getting good customers, getting people to make referrals, nurturing those customers, and they will start coming to your site and making purchases, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, I love the review. How focused you are on the review aspect of getting those. I know it's a bit of a concern because quite often you start with a site with 0 reviews, and it looks a bit scary, isn't it? To invite people to say, please come and review my products, and to get that ball rolling. I think it's okay if you have 50 reviews and there might be one disgruntled customer who adds a 1-star review. You can absorb that.
It's not only that, you're supposed to have that. In fact, the studies have found that you don't want to have exclusively 5-star reviews, because that is arguably as untrustworthy as having no reviews. So the ideal star rating that we found is between 4 stars and 4.7 stars out of 5. Obviously, not like out of 10. That would be bad. So you want to be close to perfect, but not exactly perfect, because people really. A not perfect review shows that someone's maybe used the product. So yes, you actually don't just want 5-star, this is the greatest thing in the world reviews, because customers aren't going to believe that either. That's also going to make people think, oh, maybe these are paid, or maybe they just wrote these all themselves under fake names.
Yeah, nice. Good idea. Vito, so we now know we should have had this conversation with regard to marketing much sooner, because if you do it on site launch, it's never going to work really, is it? So if you were to launch a site, what sort of are the key parts, or maybe some of the the essentials when it comes to marketing to get that set up and running before you launch?
So there's a nice framework that I like to go with when it comes to creating a marketing strategy for anything. This is basically, there's 4 points that we need to consider. The audience, the message, the channel, and the system. The system is the website. So by building the website, we're actually creating a system to accommodate a sale. But then it's only a quarter of the rest, and maybe even only 10% if you think about it properly. What you would want to do is you want to, and the interesting thing about those 4 points, audience, message, channel, and system, is that they have to work together harmoniously in order for them to unlock the growth of the business, to unlock the growth of the shop. You want to think about this really like those 4-digit combination locks. You know, there's like 10,000 options, 10,000 combinations, but only one of them is actually gonna unlock the lock and allow you to grow to where you want to grow. So a lot of experimentation, like Sam is saying. Out of those 4 elements, when you're talking about audience, defining your audience is something that should be done even before you build the website, or knowing who your audience is. For this, I would suggest looking into building what they call a client avatar, and there's a lot of resources online around this to make sure that you have a person that you speak to, because when you're writing copy on the website, when you're designing the website, when you're writing your marketing copy, which is the second part, the message, you want to make sure that you're addressing it to a certain individual so that it can resonate with them. So in the same way that when I talk to my mom differently than I talk to the bank manager, right? So I always keep that in mind, that that you want to know who you're speaking to when you're writing the marketing copy. Which brings me to the next point, the message. That comes out of the audience. If you know who you're talking to, it makes it a lot easier to craft the messages around this, to craft the creatives that will convert for this particular type of audience. Maybe you want to have something that is super luxurious and high end. That should be complete. That the message around this should be completely different than something that is affordable and on the go. Then the third thing is finding the channel. So you can see that how they all come out of each other. So once we have the audience, we can try and identify where do they hang out. So going with paid ads is an option, but where? Should I do YouTube ads? Should I do like Twitter ads? Should I go LinkedIn? Should I go Facebook? Maybe I should actually pay some websites for this. So you don't get to choose really. Your audience is where you should be promoting your products. Now, I wouldn't jump straight into paid ads initially. I would say that trying to create some organic traction, even if it's small organic traction, will allow you to prove the concept of what you have. So when you're writing your channels down, you want to find a few organic ones as well as a few paid ones, and then start from the organic one, drive some sales in. My strategy says you want to go from organic, generate the sales, take the money, and go paid, and that's how you scale up. And then finally, you have the system, which is what the website is supposed to do. That also requires years of optimization when it comes to the flows that are happening inside. Where do you drive the audience that you presented the message through the channel to? Where do you push them? Push them on the home page, into the product page, maybe a designated landing page, maybe directly to the checkout with the product already added. Maybe that's the trick. So there's a lot of experimentation until you are able to unlock this lock. But really, the whole thing is just based on those 4 elements.
Great, love that. Just coming back on that. So you identify the flow of how your customers navigate your site in order to convert into a customer. So I'm going to pass this to Leah to start with. So I'm looking here. So I've sort of identified it 3 stages. So the stage 1 is converting a visitor into a customer. The second stage, which I'll ask after, is you're going to have a customer. How can you sell more? This is about AOV, and then you have the final part, which is to turn the customer into a return customer and bring them back, whether it's the next day or next week or next year. So just on the first part, where you turn a visitor into a customer, landing on your site, never been there before. What are your top tips? Maybe it's a particular plugin. Maybe it's an optimization that you say, please focus on that, because that to me is absolutely key.
Yeah, and I think actually Sam already mentioned that before, so it is my top tip. So I will just repeat it, but I do think that capturing their email so that you can nurture them might be the most helpful thing you can do with a first-time visitor. So we are talking about a first or maybe a few times visitor. There are quite a few plugins. One of them is Automate.ru, for example, and you can build the type of pop-up that works for your store. So that may be a pop-up, that may be something that a pop-up that comes at exit intent, that could be just a newsletter page. There are quite a few options that work with your brand, so you can figure that out. I think that would be my top tip for the first-time visitors, though. In addition to creating a good brand, because the first experience will be what determines whether someone comes back or not, right? And a good brand means everything and nothing at the same time, right? And so that then entails like having good content, but having your site that works. So if you have like a URL that's broken, that's a bad experience, right? Sam touched on trustworthiness, right? Having an SSL certificate that allows your site to be secure. That's another part of your brand, which is not only just the colors you choose and the copy you write. Having this way, however you want it to be, but the way to capture a lead is the first tip. The second tip would be obviously to make it as good and as smooth of an experience as it's possible for you to make for your users, because that really drives the perception that they will have. And it's like people, a first-time impression does matter, right?
Yeah. Just on that, if you're a WooCommerce store owner and you don't have a massive budget to pay for testers, how would you ask your friends? Is that a fair thing to say? Can you test if my store works, or would you? How do you work and on that user experience and testing that the flow actually works?
That's a fantastic question. I've built a few apps and things like that myself. I do find friends to be very helpful. They can have a little bit of a hard time being honest. So what I do like is doing an anonymous survey, right? So I make sure that they know I'm not gonna know it's them who say whatever. I haven't leveraged that myself, but I have seen others do it. Sometimes on certain Facebook groups or community groups, people are willing to do that for you. So for instance, on Facebook, I am part of a woman in product group, and I do see some people posting about needing testers, needing feedback and things like that. So that could be another way to leverage it. And usually anonymous or people that you don't know very well, they tend to be a lot more honest about their feedback. So that could be a second option. I think that's a good one as well.
Yeah, and I can actually add to that. The general WordPress and WooCommerce community are mostly very, very fair and helpful when it comes to feedback. So I think that's also great to reach out to, your meetup or so. Sam, just I'm going back to the emails. What Lee already touched on some like an exit intent or so. What other ways of capturing emails would you recommend that can help get more users to register with you?
Sure. Well, generally, you have to give someone some sort of an incentive to give you an email at this point. And now incentive can mean a lot of different things. Obviously, when we're dealing here with e-commerce stores, the first incentive that comes to mind is a discount. You see these all the time, the pop-ups, get 10% off your order. We'll send you a coupon code for signing up for our email list. Those have their pros and cons. They're very effective. The number one reason that people subscribe to an e-commerce brand's email list by far is to get a discount or in the hopes of future discount. So clearly that's a primary motivator. However, there are plenty of other incentives you can offer. If you have a really cool brand, you can get away with just, advanced like tips and tricks. We've also seen people, various companies, if you have domain expertise in an area, offering some sort of lead magnet. I know there's one I've had my eye on for a while, and they offer a free ebook download for subscribing. It's like a 97-page guide to the complete guide to choosing an electronic bike. And that is great. Not only is it something that motivates someone who's in their exact target audience, as Vito put it, to subscribe, but it also then, by the time I'm done, if I read almost 100-page ebook from this brand, I'm going to trust them by the end of that ebook as the source of the place where I want to go buy that bike. So if you can do something like that, that's a great way. That takes a little more elbow grease than just, offering a coupon code, but it could be more effective long term. And of course, then, for all the pros of discounting, you could avoid some of those, the dark sides of discounting, the whole, getting into the spiral of having to offer more, the possible devaluation, things like that. So I would say you have to offer some sort of incentive to get people to subscribe to your email list. And discounts can work. They can be very quick, whatever it is, or lead magnets, which may take a little longer, but may have that sort of more effectiveness over the long time, as content marketing often does.
Yeah, nice. Vito, are there any other ways to engage with customers? I know I'm just going to hint here, for example, some sort of competition or other ways to keep people engaged, even if they're not a customer yet.
Right. So there's a few interesting opportunities in this space, because I like to look at this from like a split strategy, really, which is nurturing people and selling to people. When you're nurturing to people, the objective is that you want to nurture them, make sure that they see you as the authority within that space. You want to make sure that they see you as the expert, so that when it's time to sell, you also have a way to reach them. Like the guy said, like Sam and Leah said, via email is always the best choice. But also you have that authority so that they can actually trust you when you go for that close, you go for that call to action. So some of the things that people are doing is lead magnets, of course, creating content that is specifically geared towards this target audience, using social media as a one-way mechanism. What do I mean by that? A lot of times when we're building websites for clients, they want to have the social media links on the header and on the footer, and give me the Instagram feed on the homepage. So like the entire website is actually driving people away from the website. But I like to think about social media as a one-way mechanism. You want to grow your social media channels to drive traffic into your website, but within social media, you nurture the people. That's one thing, social media. Another thing that you can do is do this. Right, you go to you go and share your experience, your expertise within the community, so that people can actually know that you have something to offer, and it's not just a faceless product. I think that's a great strategy that worked really well for us. Another thing that is becoming very attractive nowadays is virtual summits. So you guys did one, the Expand Virtual Summit, just a couple of weeks ago. We did one just a couple of weeks before you guys did. Now there is one, WordCamp Europe, right? That is happening while we are sitting here. So this is a very effective mechanism of building a following around your brand and providing value in a, let's say, non-intrusive way. You offer people access to valuable content. Really, what we're saying here is super valuable to a lot of people that are listening. And what you did at your summit, what I did at my summit, it's not about sales. It's about just sharing the knowledge, making sure that you're engaging, building relationships with your potential customers, so that when the time comes, you will be top of mind. That's the whole thing that you can ask for. Yeah, but also it's a great way of collecting the email for people as they sign up for a meetup, for a virtual event, for all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, great.
Ronald, I can really quick speak to contests if you want to. Did you want to?
Of course. Yeah, mention it.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
I would just say one quick word of caution with building email lists with contests is make sure whatever you're giving away is hyper targeted to the audience you want to get for your store. because you could get 100,000 email subscribers if you offer $1 million as a giveaway for your contest. But the example I like is there the program Sublime Text. It's a coding app, and there was a person he wanted to build his list about Sublime Text, gave away one license, which is $70 for that app, to make sure he got hyper targeted, and gets a few thousand of the most perfect subscribers. So that way you're not just having people who are there only for the contest. So that's the word of caution when you're building a contest to build an email list. It can be super effective. Just make sure you target the prize to your target audience who will stay engaged with your content and then ultimately your store.
If I may add to this, if you're doing a contest, probably it's not a good idea to include your own product in there, because then you're, first of all, discounting to 100%. So you're devaluing your product instantly, but also you're limiting your ability to actually sell your own product as the next screen after they sign up for the giveaway. So as the kind of upsell from the nurture, from the lead magnet, which is what this mechanism for. So what this guy did with Sublime is awesome. Let's say you're targeting entrepreneurs, offer a pack of books, offer some access to a complementary software that might kind of be relevant to what you're doing. So I can say from the band days when I used to be in a band, we did a super effective giveaway where we gave away a guitar. So that got us a few tens of thousands of subscribers to the mailing list that we could then sell our music to. But it was a very specific rock focused guitar, because that's the audience that we wanted to go after. Then this was successful, so we did like an AC/DC discography pack, giveaway. So we gave away all of the AC/DC albums, and we got a bunch of stuff together. So think creative, and you can do a lot of great stuff with giveaways. Just don't give away an iPad or something like Sam is saying,
Yeah. Maya, take note. I think a competition is it's total, but it's actually really interesting. I think it's a good conversation to carry on. I'm just going to do the next part. So maybe just a quick tip from each of you. So it's average order value, AOV, what I've said earlier. I think it's a key piece to drive more revenue, especially if you are, selling consumables or, fashion and things like that, to drive maybe one more product, or maybe it's free shipping, etc. So if I go with Leah first, what's your key tip to drive or increase AOV?
One thing I really like is to try to upsell people at checkout. However, try to upsell them with related products. It goes back to the conversation we were just having, but something like, if you're selling toys, maybe upgrade them with batteries, right?
Yeah, or shoe polish, and when you sell shoes, yeah.
Exactly. So upsells only work if they make sense, and especially at checkout. Otherwise, people feel a little bit like lied to or like cheated in some ways. But I have added batteries or plugs or warranties so many times. So I think that's my biggest advice, and there are plugins for that, so that works.
Brilliant. Vito, what's your piece to
upsells
increase? Yeah.
First of all, have an upsell. That's the first tip, because most people
not just the recommended products that are sort of come in somewhere at the bottom. Yeah, you need to be a bit more proactive for that. Yeah,
proactive is really the key part of it. So in WooCommerce or in e-commerce, there is the item is next to the till, which are like the batteries, the gum that you buy while you're on the way out to the checkout and stuff. But then there could be like super valuable upsells that you consider that not many people are going to buy, but really the upsell in a lot of cases is what is financing the cost per acquisition for the customer. So you want to think about this as not as a mechanism of generating revenue, but as a mechanism. That's the core product. The core product is there to generate the revenue. The upsell is a way to cover the costs of acquiring that user. So for example, in technology, that's a lot of times that's knowledge, right? You would find a lot of courses or kind of like information. Really, that's the way that people go within technology. Within consumer products, when you have a product that is being consumed on a regular basis, then you would want to just offer more of it, right? That's kind of something that a lot of people don't consider, and that really is one of the most effective upsells, because the person already said that they want this product. So if it's going to run out, why not sell 2 more and sell a pack of 3 as the upsell for a small discount? So as long as but one more last thing, you wanna split the concept of those next to the till items and an upsell, and like a proactive upsell. What do I mean by that? An upsell deserves a full-on page that describes its benefits, describe its features, describe why it's the right thing to do at this stage. But then next to till offers are the stuff that you have as blocks while you're going on your checkout, while you're going out through the checkout process. So it's just like a one-click small upsell for a few bucks. But you can really make even more money from the upsell than from the core product if you build a flow properly. And again, there's plugins that help do that.
I think the checkout, when you're at the physical checkout, so I quite often use the imagine you are in a supermarket, because supermarkets are really good at tempting you to buy way more than you went into. So, if you want to buy just a pack of rice or so, you'll probably come home with a full-on, kit to make your own spicy curry, for example. And as you go through checkout, you add a packet of chewing gum or, shoe polish if you are buying shoes, etc. So imagining as you go through a supermarket, all the signals, the bundles, the upsells, the 2-for-1s, try to imitate that into your own e-commerce store. And also, I think it's the what Pete also said is, as you go to the exit, you have the counter where they sell lottery tickets or magazines, or the items that just like, okay, then while I'm here, I might as well. And maybe these are the post-checkout experience. Sam, I'm going to go with you for the next item, which is actually, and I'm sorry if you had something.
I had a great AOV one, but okay, yeah.
No, it's just the time, and I don't know if you can run over a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But please, Sam. Yeah, no, if it's.
Go ahead.
It's just a study I came across actually just last week as I was putting together this compilation of all the best stats on coupon codes for one of the properties I work on here at demand.io, and I found that I've never seen this before. It's 94% of people who shop with a coupon spend more than they initially intended to, including 1 out of 6 who spend $50 US more than they intended to, which is, I've never seen that before, but it's sort of the, you'd think that discounting would lead to lower average order values, but this is actually a large population study that found it's quite the opposite is true. So believe it or not, with a right strategic coupon code at the right time to the right people, you can actually increase AOV that way. So I thought that was really interesting.
That's a really good, interesting point. And if you want to read more on that, I mean, just whoever listens, Dan Ariely has some great books on the psychology behind that, because I know the discounting, because you give somebody a discount, they already reward themselves for earning that discount by spending it once, and often they spend it once, twice, 3 times. So it's like a false economy by giving somebody, feeling they get a discount, and they end up spending way more. So I think that's a really good example, and it's obviously a real example that you've come across. So that sort of proves that point. Sam, if I stay with you also on the next thing, which is repeat business. And I know email is a big one, and I think we've said enough on that. Are there any other ways to, people made a purchase a week later, month later, whatever you're selling, bring them back again?
Well, obviously, email is going to be your primary channel for staying connected to them. And as Vito discussed, you also would love for them to follow you on social media, so they kind of feel like you're everywhere And so you're always staying somewhat top of mind, even if your social media is not necessarily converting, so you're staying top of mind. But then I'm a big advocate of loyalty and rewards programs. I think that that's really the way to get them to that peak point of the customer journey, which is where they are a repeat customer, a brand advocate, referring people. Customers want to feel taken care of. They want to feel rewarded for their loyalty. It's a pretty low lift in a lot of cases, at least to just get started. With WooCommerce, there are many good plugins already out there. There's WooCommerce Points and Rewards is the official one. There's so many good ways to get started. I would just say incentivize and keep your customers coming back, make them feel seen and recognized, and that's the way to get people to continue to come back and to spend more.
Great. Leah, Vito, do you have any other point that you want to suggest to get people back to your shop?
Yeah, one of them could be, sorry, Vito. One of them could be creating a subscriptions or memberships program. And the subscription is obviously speaks for itself, right? If someone is subscribed and pays on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, whatever, they are already a repeat customer in that sense. So some stores could find a way to have regular physical products or whatnot, and a way to get a subscription, right? Membership works in a very similar way. Sometimes they work together, but if you become a member, you tend to also have a loyalty built in, right? So adding those type of programs to your website, I think is a very powerful way to turn people into loyal customers, as long as you obviously provide them value with their membership or their subscriptions.
That's a really good one. Vito.
I would say that I agree, first of all. I would say that another good mechanism to do this is to think about the initial sale as the initial sale, not the sale itself. Really, what you want to do is you want to qualify a user or a potential client as someone that is willing to open the wallet and pay something, so that then you can keep nurtured and build that relationship for further revenue in the future. So one thing that, like I said before, with the upsell, sell more of the same. So a subscription is a good idea, but if it's a physical product, or we're talking e-commerce here, a couple of weeks after, how did you like it? Give us a review and get 10% of the product, because by now it should be running out, right? So you keep that kind of momentum going, and then as they check out for the second time, maybe that's the time to get them into a subscription, as the kind of, all right, I'm already buying the second one, so it's because it's very hard to get people to subscribe to stuff where they don't know about it. That's like the initial sale. So you qualify, and then through the second stage, you can do that. And then another thing that you want to consider is, again, under the same mindset that the first sale is just the beginning of the relationship, is that you want to start nurturing the hell out of them from that point on. So you have their email, and you provide value 10 times, and then you give them some kind of an offer. And then again, provide value 10 times and some kind of an offer. So by kind of keeping that ratio, you don't seem like you're just you're there for the money. But really, I would say in general, if you're just there for the money, you're probably not going to build a successful brand. Successful brands are built not because they want to serve people, because they want to actually deliver, and not because they want to take the money and run. That's like that's not going to build a sustainable business long term. So keep that in mind, and that's why you want to build that relationship, keep nurturing it, and make sure that you are genuine, and you basically come across as who you really are, as opposed to some kind of an artificial persona of what you think people want to see, because then it just doesn't come across as real at all.
Very nice. Last question, which is sort of the last 2 points I want to ask you. So you've all helped to build my store. You're all my 3 individual developers. And I've been running for the last year. I'm ticking on quite nicely. I've got no complaints. But this is then the point where you come to me and say, Ronald, you've got this store, but really what you should be doing X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be, that's fill in the gap. And how do you start that conversation? How can you engage with your customer and say, whether you pivot with your Woo store or whether you look at some of the things that we discussed. Who wants to go first in advising me what I should be doing to scale it up and drive it even to greater success? Vito, I'm going to go with you because you're the man with having this customer relation, it seems. So sell it to me.
Right. So first of all, you wanna realize that the fact that you have a shop is only the beginning of something that could be greater than that. So it's like that when you're opening brick and mortar shop, the work just starts when you open the door for the first time. It doesn't end there. So keeping that same mentality for your online platform is only going to benefit you and the customers that you will acquire along the way. You want to think long term, and that's very hard to do at the beginning. And usually the people realize that on year 2, because then you have something to compare. So you have some numbers to try, okay, now I have benchmarks that I want to work against, and let's see if I can be better or make more or do it differently for the next year. So if you want, if as you're approaching these conversations, talking about the past as a benchmark for the future is already a good place to identify where are the pitfalls within the current strategy, or usually you're going to find that there is no strategy. So that's gonna show the other side that this is what they're lacking, and then you can start working from there. Now there is a really good course by Ryan Dice, I think his name is, from digitalmarketer.com, that I did back in the days, like e-commerce master or whatever, something like that. And he has a really cool concept about the e-commerce ecosystem, and that gives you a map of all of those different elements that a successful e-commerce shop has. And that includes a lot of the stuff that we shared here on the conversation. Do you have a lead magnet? Probably not. Let's do a lead magnet. Do you have a cart recovery a sequence in place? Probably not. Let's do that. Do you have a blog that is churning out content regularly? Probably not. Do you have a mailing list? 15 people is not a mailing list. Let's do that. Yeah. So there's a lot of places where you can think about if you're thinking of the shop as an ecosystem rather than just a place for people to just as a gateway. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Leah, maybe I could just come back on the subscription, because I think that's a really good way to also increase value for the customer, or me as the customer. But I'm selling things that are not normally on subscription. Is that, I know there's a bit of a trend there, isn't it? So how can you get people or customers set up for that? Because I think it's a great way to help create recurring revenue.
Yeah, so I think Sam actually had a very, or he may have just left the call. He had a very good stat on a podcast we did together. I can't recall the exact number, but really subscription type businesses are the future, right? So I think I may disagree with the fact that some products are not, you're not used to seeing some products on subscription. I think nearly anything can become a subscription. Again, it's a matter of finding what works for your audience, right? So Vito had good points about maybe instead of having a one item, you say it by a number of 3, right? So that's not a subscription, right? But you can think about creative ways of what makes sense for your audience. So if you're selling clothes, maybe no one is going to buy a sweater once a month. Maybe someone might buy underwear once a month, or every 6 months. So you have to just put yourself in the shoes of your audience and realize, okay, what is the value add if they actually buy something on a repeated basis, right? So really the approach, I would say, is if you do have a mailing list, maybe ask your users. Right, the best thing to do is talk to your audience and to find out what they actually care about. So maybe do a little survey or chat with them live, and then you can probably get good ideas. Or the other option is really doing data analytics. Look at your repeat customers. Why did they buy together? Why did they buy repeatedly? What is the most recurring order? And that will give you ideas of what could be a good subscription model.
Yeah. Not every subscription has to be weekly or monthly and based on it could also be 3 times a year or so, or yeah, no, very true. I've got so many more questions, but I know we're sort of on top of the hour. So I think the only fair thing to say is to tune in again every week for the next 3 months, Maya.
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
happening for the rest of the summer?
Minimum for once a week. We will also have,
and watch on repeat 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. And send it to the closest friends and family. Okay.
And I did get a work from Sam. His internet just went down. He's texting me with his phone, but he apologizes.
There could be worse timing. I know Sam's contributions really good. So thank you, Sam, for joining. I really appreciate your input. I hope that Leah got the subscription statistics right on there. But I have 2 really good examples. These are real examples of clients. So one was a brewery that nearly went under, and they returned the brewery beer into subscription, and it totally changed the business model and is very successful now. And the other one is a fabric, a lady that sells just fabric, English fabrics, and turned a monthly subscription in creating these big quilts by piecing together little tiny bits of fabric. And the cost of a few little fabrics with instruction into an envelope, and that alone is just that subscription model alone is worth £1 million every year. So turning something existing into subscription, think out of the box, probably is by far the biggest takeaway I can give for myself.
Listen, I'm thinking now, I wish I can synchronize the subscription and my Outlook calendar, because the calendar would say if I'm somewhere on vacation, so you don't need to order, or if I'm working from home, or if I'm working from work. So if I'm working from work, it can send me a note saying, hey, do you still need lunch at home because you're at work? Somebody to think, to take care of you, actually. We need.
But would people share that personal data? I don't know if there needs to be something in between, is there? I think it's worrying, but yeah, it won't be long.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will come with a great solution. And here's Green. Here is Sam. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I guess the internet went off.
We already forgot about
you. I don't know.
I usually blame Brexit if that happens to me, but I suppose that doesn't work. Yeah, you can still blame Brexit. Don't worry.
I've been trying to. It doesn't resonate over here as well, but yeah, I've tried.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed in our episode tonight. Next week we will not have a panel. Actually, it will be only Ronald and me, right? Speaking about Woo. Also and throughout the whole summer of July and August. I wish you all the best, and thank you for joining us tonight. Lots of great information and lots of funny answers we also got, and very creative answers at some point. And I would really like to conclude this GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup. Ronald, maybe you would like to say something before we close this session.
I'd just love to see everybody again next week. It'll be great fun. But thank you all to my fellow panelists. Really appreciate your time and great input. Some good tips I will take on board myself.
Exactly, and I can actually share in the chat our next event. So somebody, maybe our attendees could subscribe if you still didn't get this. So we will be talking about how to make a Woo business. Thank you very much. This was GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup, 7 June 2021, just the same time as VCU. Again, if you have some extra time, visit us at VCU. I wish you all the best, and I see you next Monday. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.